Hey guys, Luma here, and I wanted to go ahead and show you guys how I set up the game in order to not only do rotational gameplay, but also how I keep my game from getting super weighed down by just all the information it has to manage. So you're going to need quite a few mods for this, so let's quickly go over that. Alright, so most of the mods we're going to need are going to be by Inros. You're going to want the master controller. You're going to want to grab the main version of it, as well as all of the modules except for Expanded Tattoo. The other Inros mod you're going to need is a story progression. Again, just grab the main version of it and all of the modules except for the ones that have personalities to them. I mean, you can grab them if you want, you just don't need them for this. So, like cops and robbers, fairies and werewolves, lovers, meanies, vampires and slayers are all ones that you do not need in order to complete this tutorial. The next one you're going to want is Inros Register, and this only has the main version. And the last mod you're going to need is the Pregnancy Progress Controller. This just allows you to pause your Sim's pregnancy. This is only important if you care to be there for the birth. If you don't care, like, you don't need this mod, but I personally care greatly. So, all right, then inside of our game, we are going to go ahead and head to City Hall. You can do this with a computer if you have a computer. I just don't happen to have one in my home. And the very first thing we're going to want to do is select Inros and go to Register, Tourists, and we want to set this value to false. We do not want tourists. I personally don't like them. They're not the actual Sims that are in vacation worlds like France, China, and I forget what the other one is, but they're not the Sims that are there. So I don't like them weighing down my game. I find it irritating. It'd be cool if we got to know those Sims here and then it mattered when we went to the vacation worlds. However, that's not the case, so I just turn them off. The other thing we're going to want to do is animal control. I personally set all of these to 1 except for the stray dogs and stray cats. I just find, especially with the horses, that the routing issues that they tend to have just weigh down the game significantly. So everything just set to 1. If you've already been running your game for a while, you may need to do total annihilation. So let me show you how to do that. All right, so in Inros, in Master Controller, we want to go down to Town, Total Annihilation. I personally don't have any tourists in my town or animals, but there will be an option in here that says Animals. I would select this one first, and the reason I say select this one first is I will show you with the humans. It will pop up a ginormous list of everything that's in town for that category. If you hit all and you were to delete the Sims, it would also delete any animals that are in your household. So I personally would go through this if you've already been playing for a while. That way you can just delete the animals that you don't care about. Another thing I would recommend that I do at the end of every sim week is reset everything. I love this option just because it helps clear up the game's clutter, fixes everything, goes through people's inventories in the town, because even the townies you've never played with are constantly doing stuff, which is great, but also not so great depending on how long you've been playing a save. Again, in Master Controller, we want to go ahead and head down to Settings. This is such an important thing to select. Please don't forget to turn on Retain Dreams and Opportunities. If you don't have this on, they'll lose any of the things that they're currently working on, as well as any opportunities the game might have given them. And I did that once, and I was so devastated by the time I finished my first rotation and realized that I had forgotten to turn that on. On to setting up story progression so that the world around us can continue to develop as it would, but our households that we're playing with stay stagnant. So inside of story progression, we want to head to cast options. I've already set mine up, but if you haven't set yours up before, you need to go ahead and add a new cast and give a name to it. I'm not going to do that because I already have mine. I have A rotations, and I like putting the A in front of it because that just puts it at the top. I think a really important distinction to go ahead and give you guys with the cast is you're setting it up for when you're not playing your household. This protects your household from doing anything when you're not actively playing with it. So keep that in mind. I personally have career progression turned off. I don't want them to progress in anything Another thing I changed down here is the cast priority. I set it to 5 just to give this cast the most priority over any other cast that might be attached to your household. And then, like I said, I turn off aging. I don't want my Sims to age while I'm not playing them. You know, half my Sims would be dead by the time I get back to their household if I did allow them to age. The other thing I turn off is the affair adultery chance and affair liaison. I just set those values to 0 because I don't want my Sims to be cheating while I'm gone. That'll upset me, honestly. Another thing, I don't want them making friends I'm not cool with, so I don't allow them to make friends. I also don't allow them to move as a family or solo. And I don't want anything happening to their money while I'm gone, so they're not able to make or lose any money while I'm gone. Another thing I like to prevent is allowing Sims to adopt or become pregnant. You know, I don't want to come back to a ton of new Sims that I didn't want in the first place. Now, these next two settings are really only super important, in my opinion, if you don't have the pregnancy controller, if you don't want to do all of that. This just allows you to choose the last name of the newborn as well as renaming the newborn in case they give them like a really dumb name and you hate it. I also turn off the go to hospital chance and go to jail chance. I don't want those things happening while I'm gone, as well as romance. Again, I'm just controlling and I don't want them to start flirting with anyone that I don't approve of. This one I find important no matter what. I do like prompts for marriage names. I love to choose the last name that the household is going to have. I'm usually doing this in a sense of carrying on legacies. So, like, Rachel here is my legacy founder, which means I want her last name to be the one that's carried over. And generally, it's always defaults to having it as the man. I also do it for same sex marriages. Again, usually the game defaults to the man, and then I think if it's like same sex, it's by initiator, and I just like the prompt because I want to be controlling and make sure it's exactly the name I want instead of having to remember to be on the right sim. I'm forgetful like that, so that's just my preference. Another thing I control is not allowing Sims to gain skills as well as harvesting their own personal gardens, so I shut these off as well. All right, now that we have the cast set up, it's not actually applied to any of our houses, and we only want to apply it to our households when we're not playing them. So just pretend I've played this sim for a whole sim week or however long you make your rotation. We want to go into InROS. We want to go into a story progression. We want to go into household options. And we want to go into a cast manual here. Go ahead and select that. And then we want to turn on our rotation cast. Now this family is in that cast and nothing will progress that we don't want to progress for them. So like if I stayed in this family and stuff and I tried for baby like 100,000 times, Rachel would never get pregnant. This family would never age, anything like that. It is just something you want to set up when you're not actively playing with this family. If you want to go ahead and turn it off, just go into InROS, go back into story progression, household options, and then select reset to defaults and select cast manual and then turn off your rotation. And that is how you turn it off when you return to the household. Let's go over the pregnancy controller here real quick. So when you click on your Sims, there will be pregnancy options. So I could go ahead and get Rachel Bowden pregnant. Rachel Bowden is pregnant. The other parent is Rachel Bowden. And then we could go ahead and set all of these options. But the most important one that I need for our progression is the pause pregnancy, which is just absolutely beautiful. So basically now Rachel will stay as pregnant as she currently is, no matter how long I am gone from this household, because the Sims, if you don't set this up, will give birth in like the 3 Sims days that they usually would. And then if you needed to change any settings for like storytelling purposes, I know some of you like to be a little bit more structured in your stories. It's very nice for that. I personally don't want any of that, so go ahead and end her pregnancy right there. And yeah, I really like that. I really like to be there for the births. It's very important to me. It's probably important to most of us, but if it's not, don't worry, you don't need that. How do you switch households though? You could do it through the manage worlds or whatever, but there's actually an easier way to do it, and I will go ahead and show you that. I'm going to go ahead and turn back on the cast option here so that nothing happens with my household while I show you guys. So basically, this is exactly how you would do it. You would turn on the cast and make sure that the family is in it. And then you would select on the household that you want to play. You would go to Inros Master Controller, and you would go ahead and select Make Active. And now we are actively in another household. And then again, if you wanted to make this house matter, you would go ahead and turn on the caste system for them. I personally don't, but I'm going to go ahead and use Master Controller to go ahead and switch back to my main household. And you can see that they still have their wants here, which is exactly what we wanted. That was exactly what I was testing there. And yeah, it's just a really great way of managing the world while still getting to play with the world. And I like this a lot. I really hope this tutorial was like concise and not confusing to you guys, but if it was, go ahead and leave a comment down below and I will try my best to help you. Maybe somebody else will be able to help you as well in the comments. If you did find it helpful, please leave a like, as it would help me a ton as a new content creator. And outside of that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in another one.